DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show. It is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is why victimhood sells. I got my phone going off while I'm talking to you. My phone going off while I was trying to record something on social while talking to y'all. But the topic again is why victimhood sells. Why does it seem like, and I've had people ask me this is something that I have definitely noticed. There are people in the media who write about these things. Maybe some of you have never considered this. Maybe some of you actually are the exact person or people that I'm talking about here today, but we're gonna clear all that up. We're gonna put everything on the motherfucking table. Why victimhood is selling. I've had people ask me, why do people want to, paint themselves in position of being victims? Why are people, trying to seek pity instead of, making themselves better or, working on their game or just trying to figure out a way around the challenges that they're facing rather than, putting themselves in this position. Now, we talked about victimhood a couple times already on this show in recent episodes. I'm going to tell you what those episodes are in a moment. But if you've been wondering why people who have succeeded, this is the thing that really got to me because I've always understood. First, let me tell you those victim episodes. Masterclass number 1524, I talked about why we are not victims. That was one that I recorded shortly after the civil unrest going on in America, shortly after it began in the summer or late spring of 2020. And I also talked about how to never be a victim back in Masterclass number 645. And I talked about that also in Masterclass number 394, how to avoid ever being a victim. One thing that I understand as a human being, I understand that there will always be people who want to see themselves as victims. Why they want to see themselves as victims, I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze because I don't know all these people. Some people are just, that's just the way that they think. I'm not even going to say that they're weak or they're wrong or they're bad. Some people just think that this way, that when things are not going their way, if they position themselves as a victim, they can get some pity and they can therefore absolve themselves of any responsibilities for their situations. Sometimes people actually are victims. Something happens to them that they did not want, they did not control, they did not ask for, and things just go wrong for whatever reason. That happens sometime in life. Now, you have a choice as to how you're going to respond to it, but some people choose to respond to it a certain way. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're right or wrong, but this is just human nature. This is just how some individual people are. And I think all of us understand that, even if you are one of those individuals. But here's the thing that has really gotten me to talk about this that I couldn't quite understand. Now, I already talked about how to not be a victim back again in Masterclass number 645. And again in Masterclass number 394, and then touched on it from a different angle in 1524. But why we're talking about it here today is because of this new phenomenon that I'm seeing of people who are not victims. I know that they're not victims because these are people who have created success in their lives, people who have overcome odds, people who have faced obstacles, faced tough challenges, made it through to become successful in life. But when they're looking at other people who have yet to become successful, they are giving those people, the people who have not yet become successful, are facing the same challenges that the successful person faced, and they are giving those not yet successful people reasons to feel like victims. And this part just baffles me because I'm like, wait a minute, you, Mr. Successful person, Mrs. Successful woman, you became successful despite the odds. You did not allow yourself to be a victim because you couldn't be a victim and create success at the same time. It's against the laws of physics. You made yourself a success despite facing challenges. But other people who are facing similar challenges to you, maybe even lesser challenges than you, you are encouraging them to feel like victims, whether directly or indirectly. And I haven't been able to quite understand why those people would do it. Why would a successful person not just give other people a blueprint or a framework or at least some encouragement for, hey, I created success and I faced challenges just like you. Here's how I did it. Look, follow my path, follow my example, follow my framework. Why not give them that? But instead you're giving them reasons to feel like they're victims and that they're not going to be able to create success because they have all these problems or odds stacked against them. Why are people doing this when they could just as easily preach empowerment, hustling, learning how to play the game, all topics which have been covered in detail on this Work on Your Game Masterclass. Why are people doing this? I couldn't quite figure it out, but we're doing this masterclass here today because I have figured it out. I have the key, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to explain to you why victimhood sells, why people continue to see themselves as victims, even though they have an option to not do so, and why they are encouraged by successful non-victim people to keep seeing themselves as victims. All right, I've unlocked the safe here, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get into it. I'm gonna tell you 3 reasons why this is happening. Point number 1, the topic once again, why victimhood sells, why people are so attracted to victimhood. Even people who are not victims, they like talking about being victims, even though they're not. It's crazy, right? Point number 1, victimhood is passive and it allows you to stay where you are. It allows you to remain stagnant. It allows you to remain in the same place. And this is one of the selling points of victimhood. Why? Because as human beings, we are wired to conserve energy. We are wired to try to get as much done as we can while using as little of our resources as possible. So the more work we can get done while actually exerting the least amount of effort, we will aim for that. This is just it's the conservation mechanism as we are as human beings. This is why our conscious minds delete. So our minds are deletion devices. We delete all the things around us that we could be paying attention to that are not the center of our focus. So whatever you're focused on or paying attention to, you don't notice all the other things going on. Like you look at the room or the space that you're in or the car that you're in or the street that you're standing on right now, there are thousands of things that you could be paying attention to, but you're not paying attention to them because your brain can't focus on all of them at once. So it basically deletes all those things so you don't really notice them and you're only focusing on whatever you're paying attention to. Even if you're losing focus and you're getting distracted, when you're distracted, you're paying attention to something other than the thing that you want to be paying attention to, but there's attention on something. You understand what I'm saying? All that, I'm telling you that to explain to you this part about victimhood being passive and allowing you to stay where you are. It allows you to not use as much energy. Now, if you see yourself as a victim, you can say, look, I'm a victim. All right, I'm this color, I'm this gender, I'm this race, I'm from this country. I have these odds against me. I had this bad thing done to me. I've had this person do me wrong. All of these things have put me in a disadvantageous position. And I'm not saying that any of these are incorrect. Maybe they are all true. This has put me in a disadvantageous position in your eyes, and therefore you don't believe it is worth it to put any effort towards creating success because of this status that you have is always going to hold you back. If you see yourself that way, you can sell yourself on the concept of not even trying anymore in life. And since human beings are wired to put forth as little effort as possible, this works. This is a great sales pitch that a lot of people use on themselves throughout their lives. Empowerment, on the other hand, just to compare, if you choose to empower yourself, I'm this race, I'm this religion, I'm this color, I'm this gender, I'm this age, I've had this done bad to me, I have these odds against me. I have chosen, however, despite all of that, I have chosen to empower myself and make things happen anyway. Now, what do you have to do? You have to get active. You have to put forth effort. You have to work on your game. You have to be disciplined. You have to be mentally tough. You have to take personal initiative. All of those things require you to put some effort out, right? Time, money, attention, energy, focus, the 5 forms of investment. So this is the difference. Victimhood sells because it's easy and you don't have to do any work to be a victim. All right, it is. You can be lazy and a victim at the same time. You can't be lazy and be empowered. All right, you can't be empowered and be a victim. But you can be lazy and a victim because now you don't have to put forth any effort. And a lot of people don't want to put forth effort. So instead of just admitting that they're lazy, I've never heard anybody say, you know what, I haven't achieved success in my life, Dre, because I'm just lazy. I just don't want to work hard. Very rarely do I hear anybody say that. And if they say it, they're usually saying it in jest, as a joke. But people will say things like, well, you know what, I'm black, or I'm too young, or I'm too old, or I'm not from the right place, or I don't have the right information, or nobody has helped me out, or this person refused to help me out. People will say those things. All of those are forms of letting people know, hey, I am a victim of XYZ circumstance, therefore I'm not going to do anything to try to empower myself. It requires less effort, and anything that requires less effort will draw more people. This is why, if any of you really think about it, this is why the entertainment industry makes way more money than the education industry. Why? Because to be entertained is passive. I can sit down, you, that person on the stage or the screen, you do all the work. All I gotta do is laugh or talk about it or enjoy it. I don't have to do anything. If I get education, now you're giving me information. First of all, I have to think. That is effort in itself. Then I have to analyze that information and see how it makes sense for me, make sure it makes sense and see how it makes sense for me. Then I had to apply it. All of those require effort. This is why entertainment makes more money than education. So if you want to make a whole lot of money and you're trying to choose between education and entertainment, you should probably go towards entertainment, because odds are there will be a much wider and larger audience looking for what you're offering than as an educator. Not to say you can't make money as an educator, but you get the point that I'm making here. When you are a victim, ladies and gentlemen, all you had to do is point to the perpetrators of your victimhood. Whatever or whoever is causing your victimhood, they're the ones who have to change. And change is what? Work. Change requires effort. When you're a victim, you're not the one that changes. You're fine. It's just the perpetrators that are causing your problems. They're the ones who have to change. And if they don't change, then they stay where they are. You stay where you are. Nobody does anything. Nobody puts forth any effort, and everyone just stays exactly where they're at. And this is the normal stasis, normal level of stasis that human beings are wired to stay on. All right, putting forth effort requires initiative. That's why the fourth principle to work on your game philosophy is personal initiative. When you decide to be empowered, ladies and gentlemen, you have to take initiative and you have to look in the mirror. And when you look in the mirror, you realize that in order for my situation to change, let's fill in the blank, I have to change. If I decide to empower myself, despite the fact that odds are against me and circumstances are not working in my favor, now I'm like, oh, I got to do something different. Doing something different is work. Not everybody wants to work. Point number 2. Today's topic is why victimhood sells. Why it is such a popular product. It's like a Furby. I remember the Furbies from back in the, some of you not even old enough to even know what those are, but those of you who do, you explain it to your kids. Point number 2. Today's topic is why victimhood sells. Most people would rather have an excuse for failure than a strategy for success. Let me say that one again. Most people would rather have an excuse for failure, i.e. victimhood, than a strategy for success, i.e. empowerment. Now, the reasons for that, there are many, but one of them goes right back to what we talked about in point number 1, that an excuse for failure lets you off the hook. Basically says, I don't have to do anything because this is the reason why I'm failing. I don't need to do anything different. All right, I'm failing because of this. This excuse is stopping me from doing anything that I would do, could, would, should do. A strategy for success is not only a plan for you to get to your achievement, but it's also a mandate, because now you have to actually execute your strategy. Having a strategy is a great thing. Executing your strategy is a whole other thing. And execution is work. Execution is effort. Execution is a verb. Well, execution is actually a noun, but execute is a verb, at least in this form of the word that I'm using. And a verb, those of you who remember back from elementary school, a verb is an action word. Action word means effort. It means work. The mechanical definition of work is to put some force on some object and cause some type of change in its state. Most people don't want to do work by default. Our default position is not to do work. So if you find yourself working on your game and doing things and taking initiative, it's not normal. Most people are not looking to do that. You look around at your own life and you probably can see that most of the people you know are not on the same wavelength. True or not true? Strategy and plans, ladies and gentlemen, are formulas for doing work. And work is called work for a reason. All right, I did a whole masterclass on that exact topic. All right, there's a reason why it's called work. Not everybody wants to do the work. When I did a masterclass on that, I got to find it in my list here, but I use the word work many times here, so I'll tell you about it as soon as I find it. But the whole point that I'm making here is human beings, as I told you in point number 1, we are inherently lazy. And you know what victims do? They indulge their laziness. All right? I don't have to do anything because the situation, whatever that situation is that's the thing that's causing me to be in the position that I'm in. Okay? And if you are putting yourself in a position of being a victim, you don't have to change. You don't have to do any work. You don't have to change at all. You don't have to put forth any effort. There's nothing that you need to do, and there's nothing that you can do because you see yourself as a victim. Now, needing to do things and able to do things, those are people who are empowered. All right, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm able to do. And you may be holding yourself accountable for not doing it. Maybe you haven't done it yet, but you know you can and you know you should. All right, that's an empowered person. At least you have the thought path. You got the thought process in mind, at least the seeds of it. The person who says there's nothing I can do, that is a victim. Nothing I can do about my situation. If you ever get yourself in a position like that mentally, there's nothing I can do about my situation, all right, you need to reach out to me ASAP because you need a metaphorical slap in the face so you can figure out what you need to do, because there is something you can do. You ever get in a position where there's nothing you can do for yourself, you are in a very, very troubled position and you need help immediately. Not tomorrow, today. Let's move on to point number 3. The topic here today is why victimhood sells. Here's the key point. why people like being victims, why it is so popular. Most people don't actually want power, even though everyone claims that they do. Most people do not want power. Most people do not want to empower themselves. They do not want to be in charge. They do not want leadership. They do not want responsibility. They do not want anyone following them. They don't want that. You know why? Because all of those things require accountability. They require effort. They require energy. They require time. They require focus. They require things that most people do not want to invest. 5 forms of investment, Masterclass 609. Time, money, attention, energy, and focus. Most people don't want to put any of those into anything, even though everybody says they do. But again, if you want to know what somebody thinks, listen to them talk. You want to know what somebody believes, look at their feet. Look what they actually do, not what they say. When we talk about power, I'm talking about you being a master of your fate in life. With power comes responsibility. Your ability to respond. If you want power, you must be responsible. Victims have chosen, by choosing to paint themselves as victims, they give the power to whomever has victimized them. Thus, the onus is always on the person with the power. See, the person with power is always the one who needs to move because they got the power. All right, they have the responsibility. They have the ability to do something to respond to a situation. If you're a victim, you don't have the power. All right? Because if you did, then you wouldn't be a victim. So the person who has victimized the victim, they're the ones who has to move. They're the ones who has to do something different. But what if the victimizer doesn't want to change? What if the victimizer likes the situation, doesn't change at all? But you know what the victim does? Man, you got it right. The victim does nothing. They stay right there where they are because the victimizer is not going to change. What if the victimizer does not change to help out you, victim? You are pretty much dead in the mud. You're pretty much just going to stay where you are. And listen, there are plenty of people right now already dead but still alive, if you understand what I'm saying, who have decided to be victims, and their victimizers, whether the victimizer even knows they're a victimizer or not, is not changing, at least not in a way that would allow the victim to do anything or empower the victim. And it's pretty much just going to stay that way till everybody dies out. Everyone in that situation, that is. The onus is always on a person with power, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to be a person with power in life, understand that it's always on you to take initiative and make the next move, whatever that next move is going to be, or not make it, based on your discernment. This is why famous people don't tell you how to create success as much as they preach victimization. A famous person, let's just say a successful person, because sometimes people can be famous if they haven't really created success, but let's just say a successful person, based on your personal definition of whatever you think success means. People who have created success, they have a choice. They could either tell you how they did it, or they could tell you why you are a victim of a circumstance and you're not going to be able to do it, to do anything for yourself, whether it's the same thing they did or something else. They have a choice. So why and this is the question that I needed to answer for myself, why am I seeing all these publicly noted successful people preaching victimization more than they're preaching, hey, here's how you create success the way that I did? Why are they doing victimization instead? Here's why. Because most of their audience, the people who know about them and are listening to them, watching them, reading them, retweeting them, buying from them, subscribing to them, whatever they're doing to support that person, most of those people in the audience are lazy and will prefer to live life passively rather than actively. And because of this, the successful person, being shrewd enough, whether consciously or unconsciously, understands if I preach to everybody about how they need to work on their game and get better and put effort in, most of them are going to stop listening to me because they don't want to hear that shit. They want to hear about how they don't have to do anything, how they can just stay where they are, and they need a good, reasonable, logical enough explanation for why they don't need to do anything, i.e. victimhood. It is a perfect answer. So somebody like myself, I have said many times over the lifetime of this very show that what I talk about here is not for everybody. This ain't for everybody. Most people in life are not ambitious. Most people in life do not want to listen to somebody talking about work on your game. All right, that just sounds like effort. All right, most people are not into that. Some of you who are listening to me right now, you ain't into it. And you're like, I don't know if I want to keep with this work on your game thing. It's much easier to be a victim and do nothing. Listen, most people are not looking to improve, get better, take initiative, take personal responsibility, be mentally tough, be disciplined, work hard, create, become the masters of their own fate, because all of those things require responsibility, they require accountability, they require ownership, they require effort. Most people are not looking to do those things on a consistent basis. Victimhood has a much larger audience, or is a much bigger market for victimhood. Any of you ever watch a TV show like Shark Tank, or any show where someone's talking about their business plan? One of the things they always do when they're selling their business plan, they say, well, the market is, it's a $10 billion market. Let's say somebody's creating a video game. They'll say, well, the video game industry is a $15 billion market. All we gotta do is grab 1% of that $15 billion market and we'll be rich. Well, here's the thing. Victimhood is a $15 billion market. You grab 1% of that and you'll have a whole huge audience. I don't know what you're gonna do with them, because remember, they don't wanna work, but you will have an audience, whatever they work to you. Now, if you're talking about working on your game and effort and accountability and ownership, all right, that's not a $15 billion market. All right, I don't know how big it is, but it ain't 15 billion, if you understand what I'm saying, okay? So this is why really successful people who are known for being successful, everybody knows who they are. They don't tell people, hey, here's how you create success. I did it. Here's exactly what I did. They don't do that because it will not appeal to enough people. They rather appeal to a whole bunch of people. They created their success, so they don't really care if you get it or not. So they're not going to give you the framework for doing it. They're not going to give you the tough love that you need to hear. They don't give you what you want to hear. But that's all right. All right, it's all right that those people exist, because they create a breach for an individual like myself to step into. Prescribing people to actually work will not make you as popular as telling people that it's not their fault that they are where they are. Allow me to repeat that last sentence. This is a very important statement. You should write this down. Prescribing people to actually work will not make you as popular as telling people that it's not their fault that they are where they are. Any good marketer will concur what I just told you. Any of you who's in marketing, you tell me that what I just said is wrong. Tell me what I just said is a lie. Tell me that when you sell a product or service, you don't sell people on how much work they got to do to make it work. You sell people on how great the results are going to be and how easy it's going to be and how little effort it will require of them. Why? Because that's what sells. That's the way that we are wired as human beings. You can't sell people on the work. You can't sell people on the effort, because they ain't going to buy it. This is just a fact of human beings. Any of you who's a salesperson, if you're trying to sell a product and you're telling people all the work they're going to have to do once they get your product or service, stop. All right? Tell them the opposite. Okay, sell them the result, the outcome that they're going to get, and then you tell them about the hard work after they pay you. Okay, you're not lying to them. You're just leaving some parts out so you can do what you got to do. It's all part of the hustle, ladies and gentlemen. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Let's recap today's topic, which is why victimhood sells. As I told you, I'm trying to answer the question: why do people who have already created success, who could not possibly be victims, why are they preaching victimhood to their fans? Why are they preaching victimhood to their audience when they know that they couldn't be victims and create success themselves? I figured it out. Point number one. Victimhood is passive. It allows you to stay where you are. Empowerment is active and it requires work. When you are a victim, the perpetrator is the one who has to change. When you are empowered, you have to change. Point number two. Most people would rather have an excuse for failure than a strategy for success. Excuses are passive. They don't require effort. Strategies and plans, they are formulas that require effort. The only thing that makes them useful is effort. And most people don't want to put forth effort. Point number three, most people don't actually want power, even though everybody says they want it. With power, being a master of your fate, comes responsibility to make things happen. Victims give away their power to the victimizer, but empowered people hold all the power for themselves. But when you have power, you have accountability, you have ownership, you have responsibility. All of those things are efforts, and most people don't want to deal with them. Prescribing people to actually work will not make you popular. If you want to be popular, tell people that everything that's happening in their life is not their fault. They're not the reason why they are where they are. It's always somebody or something else. You will have a much larger audience. But if you want to create success, do the opposite. Work on your game. Dre, all.